one of the few cases ever taken to court and later turned into the film, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Today we're going to be talking about the possession and exorcism of Annelise Michel. Hi, I'm your host, Joe. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Any Last Words. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button and that subscribe so you never miss another episode. Annelise was born in Germany in 1952 to very strict religious parents. In 1968, at the age of 16, while in school, she had her first seizure. Later that night, complaining that she could not breathe and that something was sitting on her chest. And in 1969, she experienced a second seizure with the same experience, something on her chest and not being able to breathe. Her mother had taken her to a doctor who had diagnosed her with epileptic seizures, even though her brain functions came back normal. From 1970 to 1972, she spent her life in a sanitarium recovering from TB and other illnesses. While there, she experienced a third and a fourth seizure. The EEG from her third seizure said that she was normal and had normal brain functions. With her fourth seizure, the EEG came back with mild patterns of epilepsy. It was then she was given anticonvulsion and anti-seizure medications. After returning home in 1973, she began seeing demons, hearing knocks on the wall, which her sister also said she heard, and being told by demonic voices that she was going to be sent to hell and that her soul was damned. She couldn't stand the sight of religious objects. Her mother said that she witnessed her eyes turning pitch black and that her hands would turn into paws, thick paws, with claws on them. She continued to see the demon faces and said that she'd smelt the odor of burnt feces. I don't know if anybody knows what the hell that smells like. I don't know what that smells like. Anyway, people around her then started saying that they can also smell that odor as well. Her mother then took her to another practitioner who suggested that she take her to a priest. But she was diagnosed as being neurotic with epileptic patterns. Another physician said that she had epileptic patterns and switched out her meds to stronger ones. In 1975, her behavior became more erratic. She was more violent. She was growling at people. She started eating spiders and flies, which I thought spiders are supposed to eat the flies, but I guess, I don't know. She also started consuming her own urine. It's only sanitary. It's only safe to drink in extreme situations, like you're in the desert and you're going to die of dehydration. So let's not drink our pee, kids. Her mother said she started destroying crucifixes and rosaries, that she began exhibiting almost superhuman-like strength, throwing her sister across the room like a rag doll, squeezing an apple with one hand until it exploded and pieces just went throughout the room. So at that time, she decided to take her daughter to a priest. Her mother then took her to an exorcism expert who stated that yes, she was in fact possessed and got it approved by the bishop to start the exorcism process. She then started seeing priest Altz and Renz, who began performing exorcisms on her. And I don't mean just like one or two, I mean like a shit ton of exorcisms, like a lot. She ended up with over 67 exorcisms, and a lot of times they would take up to 4 hours long. Like I don't even want to be at work for 4 hours, let alone be exercised or exercise for 4 hours. And during those exorcisms, there were 42 audio recordings and some video recordings that were done. So this is the part where the discretion comes in. Some of this stuff, because this really happened to a person, might be a little too intense for some people to hear. So if this isn't something you want to hear, if these aren't photos you want to see, this is where I suggest you either fast forward or I will see you on the next episode.
Ja, ich will auch für die anderen leiden, damit die nicht in die Hölle kommen und so. Aber dass das dann so schlimm ist und so grausam und so furchtbar, nee. Das denkt man leiden, das ist so leicht Sache, aber wenn es dann wirklich schlimm wird, Da will man überhaupt nicht mehr, da will mein Kind schlafen.
Kind Gottes.
Ich hab mein Bruder geschlagen.
Namen des Ruhe gibt's nur dort, wo die Liebe ist.
Ja, bei uns gibt's nur
Nur Hass.
Ja.
Und wo nur Hass ist, da gibt's keine Ruhe.
Nein. Und für uns gibt's nie Ruhe. Nie.
Weil
Keine Ewigkeit. Die müssen in eigenen Seminaren ausgebildet werden, die dürfen nicht auf die anderen Universitäten. Kapiert?
Klar. Ist da sonst noch etwas zu sagen?
Oh, weil
der Teufel größere Macht.
Ihr Klötze. Nein, ihr Klötze. Von der Maul, ihr Klötze. Oh, so der will auch nicht. Oh, ich geh auch nicht. Oh.
sind wir schon 3.
Wie? Was soll das schneiden?
Im Namen deines seligen Jungfrau, im Namen Jesu, befehle ich dir auszufahren. Im Namen des dreifaltigen Gottes, des Vaters, im Namen des dreifaltigen Geistes, befehle ich dir auszufahren und nicht.
Annelise stopped seeing a mental health practitioner altogether, and her parents solely relied on the exorcisms to help her get through whatever it was that she was going through. So in 1976, she became severely ill, claiming that the demons would not permit her to eat. She was covered in bruises from her eyes all the way down to her feet and only weighed 68 pounds. She also claimed to be possessed by a German priest from the 1500s named Valenti Fleischmann, who everyone said she would have known nothing about. Now, Fleischmann was a German priest that was removed from the church because he did some shady things. So they was like, we can't have that. Goodbye. She started banging her head on the walls, biting herself and biting others, causing her parents and the priest to tie her down to the bed as to not hurt herself or anyone else. June 30th of 1976, she started running a really high fever, and she was very, very, very underweight for her age. She was only 22, 23 years old. And during her last exorcism, she cried out, "Please, absolution." And the next day, when her parents came to check on her, Annelise had passed away. Her autopsy report stated that she had a healthy brain and had no damage caused by the epileptic seizures, not even on a microscopic level. And that her body also had no ulcers, which is something that normally happens to a body that is very malnutritioned. Now, in 1978, her parents and both priests, Alt and Renz, were charged with negligent homicide, getting 6 months in jail and 3 years of probation, but later getting changed to just the 3 years of probation. During the trial, the defense had produced eyewitness accounts from people outside of the family, as well as the priest and the mom and dad, of things that had happened, as well as the audio and video recordings that they had done through many of these, like damn near 3/4 of these exorcisms. And the court just kind of, yeah, that's nice. We don't care kind of deal. Like, they just totally ignored everything from it. Now, the prosecution argued that Annelise had psychosis and epilepsy, and that she was taking medications that, although they suppressed the seizures, that they would cause delusions. And this is why she was acting the way she was acting. And 2 experts also stated that Father Altz had displayed symptoms of schizophrenia, which they believe allowed him to also hear these voices and believe that demonic possession was happening, and that it was feeding into her psychosis that she was having from these medication side effects, basically. Because in between the exorcisms, she would display normality, like she would just be a normal person between these exorcisms. It wasn't until the priest showed up to start doing these exorcisms that she would start acting out, like doing the growling and all this other stuff, even though she was doing all this stuff before the medication. So, I mean, it's kind of a tough one right there, because she, like I said, she was doing these things before the medication. Then she was taking the medication and they're saying that's the reason why? Like, that doesn't make any sense, but I guess whatever. So anyway, her parents ended up not spending any time. The priests ended up not spending any time, just 3 years probation. It caused the churches to get a little more strict on the exorcisms, how they're performed, and in what circumstances they should be performed. So now they were put a little more in extreme circumstances. But this case is very, very interesting. I honestly don't know what to say about this. I don't know if I believe wholeheartedly that this was a possession. Honestly, she might have had some form of psychosis. She was diagnosed by several doctors by having a form of psychosis. But then again, I do know somebody who has been possessed and has had an exorcism. So I kind of don't know where to stand on this. To me, there are some things that show that the prosecution's kind of got a little bit of a weak argument. But then again, the parents should have sought medical attention. Oh, that was the other thing too, is that the doctors had said, had they taken her in a week prior to get some form of medical help, she would have survived. She would not have died. Probably because if she was dehydrated and malnutritioned, like she was, I mean, she was 68 pounds. 68 pounds. That is like literally half of me. And I'm like 5'6", about 140-ish pounds. That is literally half of me. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think that this was a demonic possession? Do you guys think that this was mental health episodes that were, not getting the proper treatment, and she wasn't getting the proper support she needed because she was in such a strict religious family, and they didn't, they just wanted to solely rely on these exorcisms. They wanted to leave it to God. They wanted to leave it up to God. God will take care of it. Or do you think it's a little bit of both? Let me know in the comments below. Your guys' comments always generate great conversation. Make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you never miss another episode of Any Last Words. Again, I'm your host, Joe, and I hope you have nightmares about me.